The Georgia Guidestones and Xenu, the infamous alien of Scientology lore. What could those two possibly have in common? Well, up until about 2 hours ago, I would have told you absolutely nothing. I'm somewhat of an amateur scholar on L. Ron Hubbard and the Church of Scientology, and I know a thing or two about paranormal type of occurrences and megaliths such as the Georgia Guidestones. But until a couple of hours ago, I never knew that there was a great number of people that actually believe that the Georgia Guidestones were built and constructed, or at least funded and commissioned, by none other than L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology and the man who introduced the Xenu mythos into the world. That's right. People actually believe that L. Ron Hubbard is responsible for the construction of this monument, which stands just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, to the east of Atlanta. Very, very interesting speculation about the Georgia Guidestones and L. Ron Hubbard and his involvement. And as you can see now on my screen, I've got a Google map here of the Georgia Guidestones. Here's Atlanta, Georgia. And as we zoom in, we see you've got Atlanta, you've got Athens, which is where the University of Georgia is. Of course, famous for Georgia Bulldog football. And if we get out here, you can see it's actually a very, whoops, I lost it, kind of a very rural type of an area. And I just wanted to show you these Guidestones because I wanted you to see something that I found very interesting about them. And I just realized it as we were starting this broadcast. That's as close as it'll let us get. But look at these Guidestones and tell me if you see anything that strikes you in relation to being a monument to Xenu, which is the lore that I found on the internet. Well, they're in the form of an X. That is very, very interesting. The Georgia Guidestones are in the form of an X. I just thought about that. Just was able to pull it up and look at it from above. So, very interesting. Are the Georgia Guidestones a monument to Xenu? And just to make that thought completely clear, you see that X and that Xenu, it's actually Xemu, I think, I've listened to recordings from Hubbard, and I think it's Xemu, actually, X-E-M, as in Michael, U. And like here they say Xenu or Xemu. And here's the whole story of this thing. And I'm not going to teach you the A to Z of Scientology, even though it's fascinating. But Xenu was a fellow who was a dictator. He was the head of what L. Ron Hubbard called the Galactic Confederacy, and I'll call him LRH from now on. It just is easier. 75 million years ago, he brought a bunch of people to Earth, which they called Tegiak, put them around volcanoes, killed them with hydrogen bombs, and basically Scientology teaches that the Thetans, or the immortal spirits, Thetans actually, of these aliens are what adhere to humans and cause all of our spiritual difficulties. Now, this event is known as Incident 2, and within the Church of Scientology, the Xenu story is part of the advanced technology, and it's considered sacred, it's considered esoteric. You will never see or hear any Scientologists publicly admit the truth of the Xenu story. In fact, you'll hear them go out of their way to deny it with great vociferous words, and they'll act like, are you crazy? Who would believe something so stupid? It's just part of their faith to abjectly, absolutely, and without any bit of wow, A lot of polyphasic sleeping, and I'm still trying to catch up without any dissimulation. They just say it. So that puts Scientology, within the UFO religions, which we haven't talked about in a while and we need to get back to. But the main idea is that Xenu and his followers came to Earth in craft that Hubbard said looked exactly like these DC-8s without the engine fans on them. So if you can imagine people come to Earth in these DC-8s, you can imagine Xenu coming to Earth. And there's actually, I think it's in here, there's actually there it is. This level of Scientology is actually written in Hubbard's own handwriting. Everything else is, it's like a regular lesson. But this is an example of Hubbard's own handwriting. And Hubbard, spelled out the name. And here's X-E, and it looks like it looks like an N, but if you listen to him say the word, it's pretty clear he's saying Xenu. But at any rate, it does start with an X. And the reason that the Georgia Guidestones are brought into the picture is because Hubbard believes that, it's alleged that Hubbard believes, and this is really based on the testimony of a couple ex-Scientologists, because you're never going to get a Scientologist, as we just talked about, to talk about Xenu. All you're going to get is abject, complete, and total denial. But according to a couple of ex-Scientologists, and I live here in Clearwater, Florida, I think I can do some things to try to confirm some of this information. Hubbard, it is thought that Hubbard believed that when Xenu came to planet Earth, that this is where he first touched down. Really. So you got to imagine Xenu, right? He's up here in space, and he's descending down to the Earth, right? So, touchdown. That was kind of fun. And the reason why Hubbard had a monument built there is because he wanted to commemorate, as the lore goes, the first landing spot of Xenu. Now, of course, the obvious question is, why didn't the Church of Scientology just build something big and cool there? Because trust me, I live here in Clearwater, Florida, and they build big, cool stuff all over the place. Well, Hubbard was afraid, and probably rightly so, that if the church publicly put up a monument recognizing the landing of Xenu, first of all, they'd have to explain it, and they don't talk about Xenu. The first rule of Xenu Club is you don't talk about Xenu Club. So they couldn't really say, hey, we're building a monument to Xenu. So what Hubbard wanted to do is build a nice monument that would commemorate the first landing spot of Xenu, but to do it anonymously. So number one, people wouldn't tear it down, people wouldn't picket it, people wouldn't be upset with it. So with his own money, allegedly, he built this monument, and this is just shadow. So this is actually the monument, and you can see, the pictures of it here. So with his own money, darn it, with his own money, he allegedly funded this and built it, and now it continues to stand until this day. So that's the idea behind the whole L. Ron Hubbard built the Georgia Guidestones. The man that took the money for the construction of the Guidestones was sworn to secrecy and died keeping the secret. But the interesting thing about it, and I just want to look at it, if we read what is written on the Guidestones. I've read the 18 basic books of Scientology in my studies of the religion as an anthropologist and as a comparative religion fanatic. This doesn't strike me as being written by L. Ron Hubbard. What does strike me as sounding like L. Ron Hubbard is that back in '79, a man using the self-professed pseudonym of Robert C. Christian approached the Elberton, that's the name of the town, Granite Finishing Company, on behalf of a small group of loyal Americans, and that they bought this 5 acres, they put up this thing, and they wanted to preserve some history. They wanted to leave something that would, be helpful to humanity. That sounds a little bit like LRH. And the fact that the thing is shaped like an X kind of lends a little credence to it, in my opinion. However, if you put a laser gun to my head, or if you threaten to throw me in a volcano or blow me up with an atom bomb next to a volcano, I would probably say that no, this is not the work of L. Ron Hubbard. However, it's an X. The guy that commissioned it sounds vaguely Hubbard-ish. Some of his early words are LRH-like. But in the end, again, ray gun to my head, I would have to say that no, the Georgia Guidestones were not built as an homage to Xenu, although the longer I sit here and look at this thing, and the more we look at it from above being in the shape of an X, a 50-50. It certainly is Hubbard like to build something like this. LRH wasn't particularly great at being anonymous. He wasn't particularly great at keeping secrets. And low profile were 2 words that were very rarely, if ever, associated with LRH. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm teetering. I'm on the edge. But at any rate, for someone who knows as much about LRH and paranormal and alternative information to have just found out about this morning, that's pretty impressive. And it's a great story. And as soon as we get a donation or two, we're going to get in the RV. We're going to go up here. We're going to take a look, and we're going to give you from the Georgia Guidestones report. And wouldn't that be super cool? I could go to these places, literally be there. We could be making this. I could be standing, right here. And we could be showing you this thing. And all that's keeping us away from doing that is just a little money. Gas that RV, pay for the spot, things like that. That's why I ask you to consider supporting this work through PayPal or through Patreon. The information is in the box below. No, I'm not a Scientologist, by the way. I should make that very clear. But I am an amateur anthropologist, having 2 years of university studies in anthropology. And I am a person that is very, very interested in comparative and alternative religions. And one thing that I'll just say this about that, Scientology has very little original information in it. And I don't mean that as a slap, but L. Ron Hubbard literally traveled this world, and he gathered tremendous sums of data, and he took a little from here, a little from there, and he basically compiled together a collection of spiritual technologies and rebranded it under Dianetics. And really, you never would have had Scientology, but he didn't copyright his Dianetics, and it was getting away from him. People were just taking it and saying, thanks, Ron, and doing it without paying him anything. So really, the Church of Scientology was a business maneuver, and obviously a brilliant one. But that's the whole idea behind this whole thing. So is it a monument to Xenu? Do the Georgia Guidestones commemorate the first landing of the DC-8 alien we know as Xenu? Well, folks, that's for you to decide. I'm just the Christian whistleblower. I just help you unwind your mind. I just help you unindoctrinate yourself. And I hope that this information will help you be excellent to each other.